Imagine using a leech to suck the blood out of your face to appear paler. For a certain period in our history, this was a very common beauty trend for women. Many people go through a lot of pain and agony and spend a great amount of money to feel beautiful. I have been a makeup user for many years, but I have not tried nearly all of the beauty trends of our past. According to my research, there are many other interesting trends that have been popular over the years. I will share with you some of these odd trends as well as some of those that we are more accustomed to. To begin, I will tell you about the first time makeup was ever used. According to the Financial Gazette's online article, The Evolution of Makeup, the first known usage of facial makeup was in 3100 BC. The women of the dynasty of Egypt would use coal or soot to blacken their lashes and eyelids and a dark green pigment underneath to add color. It is believed that the Jewish people of that time adopted this idea of face painting because there are references to it in the New Testament of the Bible. Even though this is the first mention of facial makeup, YouBeauty.com tells us that the people in South Africa used body painting over 50,000 years ago. This could mean that people painted their bodies long before they even wore clothing. As you can imagine, as the decades passed by, the reason behind the usage of makeup changed drastically. From the ancient Roman traditions to the modern day techniques used, the usage of makeup has made a tremendous impact on our culture. Around 200 BC, Roman philosopher Plautus said, "A woman without paint is like food without salt." This meant that women were required to have their faces extremely pale and their cheeks very pink. While this may seem dramatic, it was the norm of that time. In order to achieve this pale-looking skin, some women went to the extreme of bleeding themselves with the use of leeches. This would give them the look of being ill, which in the 6th century was considered regal and gave them a high stature in society. Tuberculosis at that time was known as the romantic disease because of the way it made people look. According to Bobbi Brown's makeup manual, in 1603, when Queen Elizabeth I passed away, she was rumored to have 1.5 inches of makeup on her face at the time. This was not uncommon then because during that time, makeup was used to cover the deep and horrible scars from smallpox. By the early 1900s, makeup was being widely used by actresses to appear more dramatic on stage. At this time, rice powder was used to make the face appear lighter and to enlarge the pores, which today we use face makeup to make our pores look smaller, so that's one change over time. In 1908, a tinted face powder was introduced, and it was more natural looking on the face. It did not have the harmful side effects like those of the past either. In 1914, T.L. Williams created the first mascara and named it after his sister Mabel. Today we know this thriving company as Maybelline. The pale skin fad ended in the 1920s when Coco Chanel returned from a vacation with sunburned skin, thus beginning the tanning fad, and women everywhere became addicted. Tanning beds were then invented and sun exposure products became extremely popular. Everyone got as much time in the sun as they could. It isn't until the 1960s that the FDA was finally required to approve all ingredients that were put into makeup products. This was thanks to the color additive amendment. In the last century, we have seen so many fads come and go in the makeup industry. From the 1920s to today, we have seen photographic documentation of these changing trends. 1920 to 1930 was the era of the flapper. Red lips and thin eyebrows were very popular during that time. Women used their newly found freedom to express themselves with the use of bright lipstick, which at this time was made out of soap and was very drying to the lips. 1940 gave popularity to Joan Crawford's thick eyebrows. Red lips were still very common as well. And in this photo, you can see that the woman is using a lip brush, which is one of the many different application tools for makeup. And according to the Salon Fundamentals textbook, this brush pictured here is the perfect type for precision and even application of lip products. Advancing about 20 years, this 1960s brought bright colors to life. Thanks to Twiggy's interesting application of her eye makeup, women were more daring and bold with their appearances. An era easily recognizable to us all is the 1980s. Makeup during this time was strong and exaggerated, as well as the hair. Avon and Mary Kay both created bold eye color palettes, and icons such as Pat Benatar, pictured here, made use of them. Finally, the 2000s, which brings us closer to our modern time. Makeup was more natural and tended to accent the feminine features of the women wearing it. Celebrities such as Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, pictured here, are great examples of those trends. Also, Jennifer Aniston made tan skin appealing again, and self-tanners became a booming industry because women finally knew the dangers of the sun exposure. There have been many changes over the past 100 years as seen by these photos. Somehow these trends seem to make their way back into our everyday makeup routines. Today I shared with you some of the information of the history of makeup and how it has been used over the years. Many people go through pain and agony and spend a great amount of money to feel beautiful. After hearing what I shared with you today, I hope you have learned some history of the makeup industry and that you realize women of today are the luckiest ones in comparison to those of our past.